So the Intellis panel is about HCP engagement from the perspective of three different companies that are working in healthcare. We have Sherry Gilligan, Chief Marketing Officer at Mayo Clinic, Shweta Maniar, Global Leader, Healthcare and Life Sciences Solutions at Google Cloud. And we have Robin Verlinde, Head of Customer Engagement, General Medicines, North Europe, Sanofi.
We're going to see healthcare accelerate into what we at Mayo Clinic like to call 2030 strategy, but it's really more like right around the corner now. You know, your phone, your mobile device has become your bank, and it will shortly become your primary care physician, where we have our embeddables and wearables that are monitoring people. And through the use of AI and machine learning, we'll be able to know stuff about you way before from a patient perspective. And from a provider perspective, being connected into a network where we can get more records and cure more diseases, working with our provider community a lot quicker.
What we're saying in the company is we want to answer the questions before the HCP realizes he or she has a question. So using machine learning and AI in that sense, and literally moving from a sort of a push model to pull model and ultimately to a predictive model in the future.
There's a lot of challenges that surfaced very quickly last year, but they still want the same things, right? How do we deliver better patient care, robust pipelines, maximizing patient value across your value chain, be that if you're a pharma company or, a healthcare provider. But they're having challenges on how do you actually adopt to the new digital world.
We started to embrace Agile pretty heavily. It's funny because a lot of people say Agile started in Silicon Valley, in the 70s or 80s with software development. I always like to say the Mayo brothers really invented it, 150 years ago, because they will pull, on the practice side of Mayo Clinic, will pull in whatever physician needs to be pulled in. To diagnose a patient. And that really is the core of Agile, is the putting the customer or the patient right at the center and pulling in the cross-functional team that needs to be there to directly address it.
I would say the silver lining out of all of this is that the pandemic has actually sped up the evolution of life sciences. So what we're seeing is biopharma and device manufacturers are adjusting to forecast to factor in things like delayed launches, how the pandemic might affect trials, its data, renegotiation of contracts with health plans due to a sharp drop of volumes. So all of that to say, there have been some major changes that we've seen in life sciences that surfaced this year.
I think that's where we're starting, is really think about the long-term future. What is it that we want to get out if we would have all the data in the world? And what would we do with it in terms of bringing in superior customer experience? And then from there, we're working backwards on our AI strategy, saying what's the data quality and quantity that we need to collect, and then sort of mapping that the data governance and architecture.
The most important part of that work is that we put the patient in the middle, and we always do. Partnerships don't work when people look at what they as a company or a hospital can gain. They only work when you put the patient in the middle. And really then everyone is revolving around that patient.
For pharma companies to implement this new vision of a better engagement model, it really involves a couple of things. Number one, it involves working better across teams. So this is going to require significant coordination across brands, geographies, and other functional silos. It's going to require adoption of new technologies that perhaps are somewhat new to these companies. And it's going to require some bold leadership for these companies to move forward and adopt new ways of thinking, because physicians clearly aren't going back to the old model of doing things, and pharma companies are going to need to adapt.